The ruling class inevitably takes its authority for granted. They focus on the prize, never the growing threat on the horizon. The hyena refuses to engage in a reckless assault. It observes, it bides its time, then exploits the smallest vulnerability. Numbers are not merely a weapon, they are a psychological siege. As they accumulate one by one, the final confrontation is set in motion. They are not fighting the body, they are fighting the mind, steal the victory, then crush the will to fight back. The lion relies on sheer power to assert his dominance. The hyena, however, moves with the relentless fluidity of the tide, breaking, then reforming. Strength is fleeting. Endurance is the only timeless virtue. A conflict such as this does not conclude with a single retreat. They return without fail. They engage not in conflict, but in a test of stamina. The objective is to simply outlast the king's resolve. The absence of action is the deepest assault. Victory is not determined by displays of force. The conflict concludes the instant mastery is lost. Strength is an isolated asset. Strategy is the unity of power. Under such calculated pressure, even the sovereign begins to falter. Can the weight of numbers topple a sovereign? The moment true authority appears, the scales are reset. The multitude projects an image of courage, but before true supremacy, that image shatters into absolute terror. Absolute power requires no army to validate its claim. Its sheer existence is the final word. All conflict ceases. On the Great Plains, the strongest entities move in perfect unison, yet the movement of the herd guarantees a sacrifice. The weak are inevitably left to the wild. The hyena's eyes are fixed on the chink in the armor. They do not pursue with brute strength. They strike with calculated precision. The initial phase of the pursuit is not the strike. It is the deliberate creation of disarray. Unchecked emotion forges a vulnerability. That single weakness is all the hunter needs to claim his prize. The sheer force of a mother's instinct is undeniable. Yet in this unforgiving wild, instinct is merely the first step to survival. The hunter profits from love. The defender's courage is the opening they seek. All survival hinges on a single, fractured moment of balance. The gulf between life and death is just a single misstep. When the force is divided, it is halved, a moment's lapse in concentration, and all is forfeited. Authority may be finite, but the siege is not. The hyena is the very definition of unyielding persistence. The true vulnerability is the blind spot you cannot see. Even the mighty fall, the instant their flank is unprotected. Then comes the moment of deepest agony. The instinct is to protect, but the distance is suddenly insurmountable. In this primal place, morality is absent. There are only decisions that guarantee another day of existence. As the life-giving water recedes, the throne dissolves with it. The hippo is stripped of his absolute authority. Though massive, the hippo's mobility is its fatal flaw. On solid ground, immense weight is transformed into a crippling disadvantage. The hyena's attack is never impulsive. It is calculated. First, the flaw must be observed. Only then is the aggression warranted. Victory is not achieved through direct confrontation. They secure the win by a slow, relentless siege that erodes the spirit. They kill by inches, not by force. Harass, wound, step back. They run down the battery. Great bulk is paired with sluggish speed, but the most critical failure is the lack of staying power. The hyena is unburdened by the concept of fatigue. They rotate their effort, a single relentless machine of a pack. The burst of power is brief, the running down is permanent. The immense body is now a crippling liability. With every movement, its mass ensures a faster decay of strength. The hyena recognizes the precise point of failure. They bypass the strength. They focus their efforts on the exposed weakness. The collapse of a giant is never immediate. It is a gradual, agonizing process of erosion. The final moment is often met with profound silence. It was not the final strike that delivered the end, but the lingering inability to rise. The burst of speed offers the illusion of escape, but in the wild, freedom is merely a brief delay of fate. They don't run, they trade the pursuit. The true weapon is the exhaustion of the hunted. Strength may buy a moment of respite, but it cannot alter the inevitable course of the chase. In this cruel arena, mere velocity is not the virtue. It is reserved for those who execute without error. The very act of separation invites the predator. The herd is the fortress. The solitary one is the exposed flank. The hyena's movement is not a mere pursuit. It is a strategic maneuver to seal the exit. As the speed intensifies, the cost of error escalates. Maximum velocity demands a perfect execution. The wild is not governed by sheer speed. It is settled by the absolute precision of a solitary choice. Fear ignites the body, driving a desperate burst of speed. But that same terror paralyzes the mind's ability to reason. They do not pursue the past. They anticipate the enemy's next move. This is not mere hunting. It is a clinical application of strategy. Vainly alter your course. The conclusion is fixed. The escape route has already been sealed. It didn't lose the race, it lost the number. The conclusion of the chase is always met with an immediate, deep silence. The stillness is not an act of malice, but the inevitable consequence of a final moment. The true education begins now. From the depths of terror, a hard-won understanding of survival is forged. The assembly of the pack is not driven by malice. They unite for a single, fundamental purpose: mutual preservation. Here, brute force carries no weight of authority. The ultimate victor is not the strongest, but the one who simply refuses to break. The hyena's triumph was not a result of malice. It secured its existence through sheer, unyielding perseverance. We only observe the notorious, mocking smile, but the gaze reveals the heavy price of its continued existence. Individual strength can be forged in solitude, but genuine survival is a communal endeavor. This domain is not ruled by the transient strength of the powerful. It belongs entirely to the tenacious, to the unyielding. What our eyes witnessed was a deadly chase. What they endured was the brutal reality of existence. The essence of power is never communicated by doctrine. It is inherited by moving together through the harsh reality. The chase has concluded, but the imperative remains: we must endure the next day. The hierarchy of the wild is not determined by brute force. It is reserved for the unyielding, for those who simply refuse to surrender.